We are in the 7-4 lesson, which we're going to talk about dividing decimals. I've skipped over the lunch and we're going to go straight into part 1.
You can use what you know about dividing whole numbers to divide a decimal by a whole number. To illustrate, here's how to find 364 and 2/10 divided by 12. First, write the division using the standard long division symbol. Then, use compatible numbers to estimate the quotient to help determine where to place the first digit. 364 and 2/10 divided by 12 is approximately equal to 360 divided by 12, or 30. You can start dividing tens. Apply the 4-step method to find the first digit in the quotient. Although the difference is 0, you still need to bring down the next available place value and continue the division. Then, place the decimal point in the quotient above the decimal point in the dividend. Continue dividing. Instead of writing a remainder, write a 0 at the end of the dividend as a placeholder and complete the division. The quotient is 30 and 35/100ths. You can now use multiplication or a calculator to check the calculation. Use standard multiplication. 30 and 35/100ths times 12 equals 364 and 20/100ths. The 0 placeholder does not change the value of the number, so 364 and 20/100ths equals 364 and 2/10. The answer checks.
All right, what's important to know is that when you're dividing decimals by a whole number, the only thing you have to do is pull this decimal up into your answer. Similar to subtraction and addition, where we line up our decimal points, in division, our decimal points are also going to be lined up compared to where it's at in this number and where it's at in our answer. When we work this out, the first number is always going to be the number that goes into our box. So we have 97.5, or 97 and 5/10, and we're dividing by 6. We want to know how many times does 6 go into 9? That's once. And we subtract. Then how many times does 6 go into 37? So what we did was drop down our 7. 6 times 6, I know, is 36, so that's as close as we can get without going over. I drop my 5 down. And then I do, how many times does 6 go into 15? It goes in twice, and that's 12. And I'm left with 3. Since we are dealing with decimals, we are no longer going to write R and then a number if we have a remainder. So this is not going to be 162 remainder 3. I am not done with my problem. What I want to do is add a 0 right here, because adding a 0 does not change this value. We have a decimal point right here, so it does not change the value, and then I'm going to drop the 0. And that makes 30. So then we all know how many times 6 goes into 30. That's 5 times. So then when I write 30 here, I would subtract, and I have no remainder now. So then for my answer is not 1,625. What I have to do is find the decimal point and go straight up with it. My answer for this problem is 16 and 25/100ths. What I would love for you to do is I would love for you to try B on your own, and then I will show the solution. Here is the answer for part B. Feel free to pause the video if you would like more time looking at this. Our got it problem for part 1 is 9 and 12/1000ths divided by 3. It's going to be one of these answers. The correct answer is D, 3 and 4/1000ths. And to get the answer, you can pause the video and read this solution. Here's the key concept.
You can extend what you know about dividing to divide a decimal by a decimal. First, write the division using the standard long division symbol. Then, multiply the divisor by the power of 10 needed to change it to a whole number. To change 5/10 to a whole number, multiply by 10. Move the decimal point one place to the right. To keep the division equal, multiply the dividend by the same power of 10. You have changed the example to an equal division, 22 and 5/10 divided by 5. Use standard long division to divide 5 into 22 and 5/10. Place the decimal point in the quotient above the decimal point in the dividend. The quotient is 4 and 5/10. Here is another example. 141 thousandths divided by 2 and 35 hundredths. Again, write the division using the standard long division symbol. To change this divisor to a whole number, multiply by 100. To keep the division equal, multiply the dividend by 102. Remove the 0 in the dividend, since it is now an unneeded placeholder. Because 235 is greater than 14, begin by writing a 0 in the ones place of the quotient as a placeholder, along with the decimal point. 235 is still greater than 141, so write a 0 in the tenths place of the quotient. You need to write a 0 as a placeholder in the dividend to do the division. So the quotient for this example is 6 hundredths. Use a calculator to check the quotients for both examples.
So if we tried one together, I'm actually going to start with B. We would take 38 and 27 hundredths divided by 4 and 3/10. In order to divide it, I have to move this decimal point out of here. So it becomes 43. What I did was I moved the decimal point to the right one time. So in my other number, I want to move it to the right one time, which makes it 382 and 7/10. I then want to figure out how many times does 43 go into 382. I kind of estimate. I know that 43 times 10 would be 430, so that's too many. So I'm going to guess the number 9. So if I multiply 43 times 9, I get 387. So that number is very close to 382, however, I went over. So now I know that 43 will go in 8 whole times, and we can figure out what 43 times 8 equals. It equals 344, so that's what I'm going to write down here, and I need to subtract. I can't do 2 minus 4, so I have to borrow, and it becomes 12 minus 4, and then 7 minus 4. I have 38, and I have to drop my 7. Since I guessed over here 43 times 9, I got 387, so I already know the answer to this problem. 43 can go into 387 9 times. If I subtract, I have 0 left over, and when we're working with decimals, this is where I want to come to. I do not want a remainder, if at all possible. So then my decimal point goes straight up into my answer. So when I have 38 and 27 hundredths divided by 4 and 3/10, my answer is 8 and 9/10. What I would love for you to do is try A on your own and try C on your own, and then I will show you the solution, and you can pause the video and read through it. Here is the solution to A. Here is your solution for C. Pause the video if you need more time with it. The first got it problem for part 2 is 1 2/10 divided by 5 thousandths. It's either A, B, C, or D. The correct answer is B. If you want to know how to solve it, you can pause the video and read this. For this got it problem, I want you to write down your thoughts as best as you can to answer the question. Here is a possible answer. Remember, if I'm going too fast for you, take a moment to rewind the video or pause the video. What I did was I moved on to part 3, but I skipped the example problem. I went straight to the got it problem, and what part 3 is wanting us to do is it wants us to identify a division problem within a word problem.
A shelf used to store DVDs is 60 and 96 centimeters long. If each DVD is 1 5/10 centimeters wide, what is the maximum number of DVDs that can be stored on the shelf?
Our possible solutions are either A, B, C, or D. And what this word problem is wanting you to know, a shelf is 60 and 96 centimeters long, and it's divided into 1/5 centimeters because that's how wide each DVD is. So we're dividing these two numbers. The correct answer is C. And here is how we get the correct answer. Pause the video if you need to be able to read this through. Make sure that you try your very hardest to understand what this lesson is saying. It's not just enough to watch the video and not try. Make sure you're trying your hardest to solve those example problems, those got it problems, and that you're preparing yourself for our next class period. I want to be able to answer questions, but I can only answer your questions if you have proven to me that you've tried.